Morning of August 1st, 2024. We're at Bob Venne Park across from Northeastern Clinton Central School in Champlain. We're here for the dedication of a gazebo that was actually delivered last fall, courtesy of Woodmen of the World. When we get done with that dedication and maybe a flag presentation, we're going to get a little insight as to what's happening with Bob Venne Park from Town Supervisor Tom Trombley. So dedication will happen first, and then we'll get into what's happening here, what the future holds for Bob Venne Park here on Route 276 in Champlain. All right, it says Woodman Chapter 462, Woodmen Life Chapter 462. On your right is David Blix, the president of the chapter. We got Thomas Trombley, Jason Borey, and Rick Hunter from the Champlain Town Board.
Good morning. My name is David Blix. I'm president of Woodman Lodge 462 out of Shazy. I'm here this morning to dedicate this gazebo to the Bob Venne Memorial Park in the town of Champlain. Given this is just about making a donation, but it's about making a difference. We at Woodman pride in doing just these instructions, better serving our community. So we honor to present this gazebo to Tommy Trombley today from Bob Venne Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The town of Champlain really greatly appreciates this donation and everything that you do on a continuing basis for us. The Woodman is very generous in donating our flag, for an example. We will be putting up a new one here today. We'll have I don't know if I'll be part of this same clipping or not, but the generosity that the Woodman Chapter 162 does for this whole northern tier is greatly appreciated.
We're proud to be able to do it.
Thank you. And with that said, the town board would like to present a resolution. Resolution number 34 of 2024, commending Woodmen of the World Chapter 462 for their generosity and commitment to community. Whereas the town of Champlain is striving to develop recreation within the town, specifically within town of Champlain's Bob Venne Park, and whereas the Woodmen of the World Chapter 462 shared this visualization, and made a generous donation of a gazebo to be added to this park for the use of our residents. And whereas the town of Champlain is so appreciative for the donation and grateful for the many contributions to community that the Woodmen of the World achieved. And whereas the town of Champlain wishes to thank Chapter President David Blitz and the chapter officers for this generous donation. And be it therefore resolved that the present board of the town of Champlain go on public record commending Woodmen of the World Chapter 462 for being such an important part of our community and helping us create positive change in our community. And be it further resolved that the present board of the town of Champlain go on public record commending Woodmen of the World Chapter 462 for being such an important part of our community and helping us create positive change in our community. And be it further resolved that this resolution is adopted by the town of Champlain board on this 9th day of July 2024, and a copy sent to chapter president David Blitz by the town clerk. By the order of the town board, Thomas Trombley, supervisor, Brian Moore, council member, Rick Hunter, council member, Jason Borey, council member, and Dorothea Southwick, council member, and Julie Castine, town clerk.
Thank you, sir. It's an honor to be able to receive this.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we've moved to the flagpole. This flagpole was donated by the Woodmen several years ago, and the flag we just took down is getting a little weather beaten, so Dave and Ella have brought along a brand new flag here for the Bob Venne Park, and Lodge Secretary Ella Blix is going to read the dedication as Tom and Jason raise the flag.
I'm honored here to be presenting Woodman Life and to present Bob Venne Park, an American flag, the most recognized symbol of a nation's commitment to freedom. Woodmen Life members advocate for patriotism, and we're proud to provide flags with this and other worthy nonprofit organizations. In fact, our organization has become one of the largest presenters of U.S. flags in the nation. So who are we? Let me tell you briefly. Woodman Life has been helping to protect the financial future of families like yours, making a difference in hometowns across America, and honoring our country since 1890. As a not-for-profit life insurance company, we put money back into the community, here when you need us the most. And in addition to presenting flags, we promote good citizenship, give awards to outstanding members who performed a valued service, and to others whose heroic efforts have saved a human life. We make communities better by providing facilities and needed equipment such as life-saving and other equipment for fire and rescue departments, furnishings for community centers, parks, playgrounds, and centers for the abused. The flag of the nation symbolizes the values, hopes, and aspirations of its people. The Continental Congress meeting in Philadelphia adopted the following resolution on June 14, 1777, that the flag of the United States be 13 stripes, alternate red and white, and that the Union be 13 stars, white in a blue field representing a new constellation. These words signal to the world the birth of a new nation founded on ideas of personal and religious liberty and justice for all. The flag of today remains the 13 red and white stripes, representing the 13 original colonies, red signaling courage, white signifying the love of liberty and purity of purpose. The 50 stars in the field of blue represent the union of the 50 states, the blue being the indication of royalty among them. So on behalf of Woodmen Life Chapter 462, Shazy, New York, we present to you the flag of the United States of America.
I'm not sure who arranged the flyover, but very nice.
And we thank you.
You're welcome.
And a little solar panel there for powering the evening light that shines on the flag here. So that's the dedication, and unless there's more ceremonies to take place here, the next step will be to talk with Tom Trombley about the future of Bob Venne Park. As you can see, it's a work in progress, and they got soccer nets out there, baseball backstop, and Harry McManus all-purpose trail goes right by here. So volleyball nets to our right, and more is planned. I'm going to start with a very brief history of Bob Venne Park. Bob Venne died in June of 1997, and Norm Bono and Jay Montpelier got together and decided that a park should be dedicated to his memory. So they contacted me. I did a little video with them, and next thing I knew, they decided I was on their committee with them. So be careful when you don't go to meetings. You sometimes end up on committees. So the phone company stepped up. They had a great auction, and the Venne family donated a lot of items, and we came down with a down payment. And at the time, Louis and Rita Bedard were living over there, which is a Dewey Tavern, and we talked to them about buying some property, and they were fans of Bob, so we bought some property along the Prospect Hill Road in that direction. But then we found out, because we weren't a government entity, grants weren't really going to be allowed for us, so we needed to turn the property over to the town. So we approached them and said, well, we've given you X number of dollars as a down payment. We can't afford to pay any more because we're not getting any money coming in. So you can take our money and foreclose, or if there's another piece of property. And they both stepped up and said, yep, we got a perfect spot for you, and this is where it was. So they could have foreclosed on us and said thanks for the money, but they didn't. They took what we'd given them so far and turned over this property to us. So Louis and Rita are very, very much a part of what's happening here. So at that point, we turned this over to the town, and I know Clark Herdick, who left us a few years ago, was very active here, working very active to get this set up. And Brian, I know, was working with him. Brian Moore also worked with him in the Perry's Mills Park area and so on. And we've got the Harry McManus Trail coming right by here, and right across from northeastern Clinton. So it's a a very good spot halfway between both villages, Champlain and Rouse's Point. So now we've got, the town is going to come up with some tentative plans. It's still a work in progress here. Nothing is set in stone just yet. So we got Rick Hunter and Jason Bowery and Tom Trombley here, and this is, I'll shoot here. This is at the top here is,
This is 276. We're holding this sideways to make it a little easier to
visualize, because that's the way we were looking.
So that's 276. This is where the trail starts off that roadway.
Mm-hmm. And then we got different things of the parking area and property we don't own yet, but you're open that that'll happen.
Right. So currently what's in place is this ball field and this soccer field. Although currently we've got the soccer field running east and west because we need to do some more work on this area. We see we've had it staked out over here, but we can't get ready in time for this year's soccer season. So next year, hopefully the field will be placed exactly where it's supposed to be.
So the youth teams will be playing on...
Yes, so right now they're on that end because that area of the ground is in much better condition. Here we've got some stones to dig out and some few potholes to fill. So Alan Racine said he'll get to that sometime late summer and get it prepped for next year.
Okay, so that's so two, I'll call them baseball, or they might be softball, baseball diamonds.
Well, this one that's on here, we're not certain we'll have a need for that or not. Okay. But
it's there if you need it.
It's planned in there in case. This one will get used some this year, according to our director, Shar Sample. So currently we're standing right around this area where this gazebo is currently located, and the project that's near starting, we're just working on the final approvals of state funding, is there'll be a outdoor fitness center up here right near where I'll call it a trailhead, but it's not, but right where the trail starts off this highway.
Which is right across from the Northeastern Clinton softball field.
That is correct. Yeah. So that'll be an outdoor fitness center. There'll be a walkway, ADA compliant, so they can access it from the trail. It'll be connected to a parking lot, and then off that parking lot will be a double pickleball court. So the pickleball court and the fitness court rather, are the first two things going in, and probably a third of the parking lot we're hoping this fall we can get constructed.
Okay.
Okay, and then next year continue on with the parking lot, and we'll need to find additional funding to put this basketball court in. This volleyball court currently exists and is being used this year by a youth group that was put together by Nikki Malinsky, so they are using it.
Great.
That is great. These are just future possible pavilion, which is here, and possible small children's playground, which would be very useful for when parents are here watching the older kids play soccer. The youngsters can be on the playground amusing themselves.
All right, and you're hoping for grants, but you're also willing to accept funding, right?
Yes, and we have accepted a very substantial amount of funding for this fitness court and pickleball court project. Let's see, we've had CVPH Foundation has donated, and Hudson Headwaters has donated twice. They've donated, I believe, $10,000. And the American Legion, Post 912 in Rouse's Point as well. So, and we're welcome for more donations to try to keep moving this forward. If I had more funding coming in, we could increase the parking lot this year, but currently that's what fits the budget, is these two courts and a little piece of the parking lot.
Okay.
Okay, so now I want to mention another project that we've just been working on this for last month or so. If you can see the stakes, you can see these two right here on this end, and then there's two down behind the backstop, probably about 40 feet from the backstop. That's a tentative area for a dog park. It was brought to our attention that there may be some private funding donations available, so I think it's wonderful. So we staked it out. I'm not sure if that's going to come to fruition or not right away, but we will continue to look for grant funds to try to make that happen, because we do feel, the board feels, that that's a very viable addition to this park, primarily because the location right adjacent to the rec trail, it's directly between both villages. I think it'll get a lot of use.
So we have to keep pointing out this is still a work in progress here.
Oh yeah.
You got some plans that, even though this is written in ink here, there is an eraser if you need to move stuff around. Or
There is, and I should point out too, this particular site plan is not completely to scale, because that was done off GIS mapping.
okay.
So it's, I don't know what the accuracy would be, probably somewhere around 85 or 90%.
Well, we'll forgive you that. We'll go. If you're within 10%, you're good enough on hometown cable.
Awesome.
Rick, Jason, anything we haven't talked about here that you think is important?
You want me to hold the sign?
No, I mean, it's so one of the things that we talked about that we'd like to see here is a military monument or installment.
Oh yes, that's right.
That's right.
And if people are familiar with the filming you just recently did with the completed one in Moores, very similar to what they've done. It'll be our own version here, but that is the goal, and that'll live right here at the park. So all branches of military, all
In this area here.
yes,
Yeah, so
from country's founding to most recent conflicts. So.
right, and that is the location that we have chosen for it. So as we start excavating for these courts over here, any additional fill will start leveling that up a little bit. And all of this has been cleared. We even had to do a seeker on the property because of the state funding. So environmentally, there's not a problem. That is not DEC wetlands.
Okay.
I want to point that out because I think a lot of people may think that, because you can it just looks it, because it's wet, because it's a little bit low.
Mm-hmm.
So we intend to build that up, and that's where that memorial is planned to be located.
And if people remember, at American Legion Post 767 in Champlain on Elm Street, those monuments there were donated by the International Association of Machinists, and those monuments are now some of the ones you'll be putting up here, right? That were there at the Legion in Champlain.
Well, we haven't gone that far in discussing that, but aren't those in the History Center
I
now?
thought they were. Yes, they are. So I don't know if she'd.
We'll have to have that discussion with.
They're outdoor monuments, so.
Yes.
We'll have to have that discussion with Celine to see if they could be installed here, because you're right, they were donated by.
Would be all new. Yeah, we could. It's something definitely to look at for sure.
Well, the monuments are durable. They're.
Of course.
You'd have to.
Sure.
We'd have to. I remember Bill Rye doing the masonry work there to put those in at the Legion, but outside of finding a way to put them in, the plaques are there, so it'd be great to utilize them, and get them where people can see them.
Agreed.
You had mentioned, you just told us earlier off camera about a couple of new historical markers that are going to be going in here, which is a goal, and I don't know if you want to mention that, and then.
Okay. Yeah. First, we'll figure out where we want it. David Patrick has been very much involved. He's, he's a descendant of Plenty Moore, so he's very much involved in our history, and he works a lot with Celine at the Samuel D. Champlain Center. So he's been working for years trying to get a couple of historical markers set up. So Woodman bought 2 of them this year. One will go up across the road from Dewey Tavern, and one will be set up here. And I want to talk with David and work with him what he thinks would be a suitable site, and then come to an agreement on where it should be here. Then next year, behind us here is this little tree line here. That's where I remember as the Rutland Railroad, and these young guys, Jason and Rick, probably don't know about this Rutland Railroad here. They closed in I think the last train came through in 1962.
I had a grandfather that worked on it, so I'm familiar.
Awesome.
So this opened up as the Northern Railroad, and then later on became the O&LC, Ogdensburg and Lake Champlain, which is kind of descriptive of what it did. It went from Ogdensburg all the way over here to Lake Champlain and across the what's now no longer the tracks there across
Yeah,
the bridge,
The pier is
railroad
since
bridge.
gone.
So they shared those tracks for a while. Rutland and Central Vermont each had a set of tracks there. But so September 28th, from what I've read, is that for the first time the entire line opened up. I think it was started about 1849 or so, but I think it opened up in September 28th of 1850. So next year, 175-year anniversary. So I'm trying to talk to Woodman into getting a monument that we could put along here, and maybe at some of our railroad stations where they used to be along that route. Because we were all familiar now with the D&H line coming through Coopersville and into. Well, this was decades before that happened. So
Agreed.
This was the first one up here in Clinton County was this 1850 railroad. So we got to recognize that.
In which they had a depot in the village of Champlain.
And Rouse's Point
And
and Moores and
I call it a depot. I guess it was actually a train station, but I know it had a small warehouse. That building still exists.
Yeah,
That's where they used to transfer goods
yeah.
and load them on the train.
Yeah, it was people could board their train there, so it was. I never went there much because it's on the back of where the funeral home is, and Elm Street was Route 11 at that point. So if we're going through, I'd be heading to Rouse's Point. We'd be heading down Elm Street. I went to school at St. Mary's, didn't go there, so it was on a back street. So I don't have a lot of visual memories in my brain because I didn't go in that back street very often, if ever.
So as a kid, I do remember the other building being there, and of course it got set on fire a few times at Halloween, and we lost it eventually. But my house is,
Pretty much in that same.
across from it, behind the station. I've got a postcard of the station when it was in, full use with people standing around,
Yeah,
people boarding the train and everything. But it's from the other angle, and it doesn't have my house in it.
Oh,
I've been looking for years to find it from the other perspective, but haven't done it.
yeah. So this train, the Cherubusco was known as the summit up there because that was the highest spot along their track. So they'd chug going up there, and they'd chug heading out west. They'd be going downhill after that, and then coming this way.
That was the point. That was the highest point.
Yeah. So,
Interesting.
So we want to recognize some of that the Woodman does. So we're going to.
Yeah. So next to this
Exploring
rec
that.
trail will be ideal for that
Yeah.
marker.
Yeah, because people, a generation from now will have no idea. We all remember that those tracks were there, but even if we never saw them in use, but generation now that's going to be lost. So let's recognize it while we can. All right.
There's another goal here. Again, what that will entail in terms of the size and scope might be determined by our local historical groups, but I'd like to see some kind of a directory here that would send people throughout the two villages in the town of all the historical elements that they can find here. Maybe not all of them, but at least the high point ones. This might be a great sending point as it's really a central location.
You're reading my mind. That's what I envision here as a town historian, is to have this a spot where people can come and know where to go to Point of Fair. 1760, Rogers Rangers were there. We need to point people in this direction. Get some markers and send them to Rouse's Point. In 1609, Samuel D. Champlain floated by those shores. We should have some artwork depicting that and sending it from here to there. In 1776, when the Battle of Valcour took place, the British fleet again came through there, went down and met Benedict Arnold at the Battle of Valcour. 1814, just before September 11th, the fleet came down through there. They met Commodore McDonough, the future Commodore McDonough, and had the decisive battle in the War of 1812. So
Yes.
all that happened lake-wise right there on our shores in Rouse's Point. So it's important to point that out and let people know what they're looking at when they're looking at those waters.
Yep. And that's the type of directory that you're referring to.
Yeah, send people in the right direction, and
Yeah, not only for our out-of-towners, our visitors, but also for the locals who may not even realize
Oh, God,
all
yeah.
of the fantastic history that's taken place right in their own backyard.
yeah. And as I mentioned many times, right here, August 28th, the first Native Americans showed their, according to Pliny Moore's journal, showed up. By early September, 14,000 British troops had come here and camped briefly here right where we are, in front of Dewey Tavern, and all the way over to Alan Racine's house in Champlain on Prospect Street. You try to set up 14,000 troops, it's going to take a few acres.
Takes a little space.
So they marched from here, went to Chazy, did some activity there, went on to Battle of Culver Hill in Beekmantown. So we got a whole trail of history. It wasn't just what happened on September 11th on the lake out there. That war started, that invasion started right here, lake-wise and land-wise. And the people who were wounded came back here, the British came back here, and they didn't leave here until September 25th. So for 4 full weeks, this land we're standing on right now is occupied
That's an encampment.
by British forces. Most of them had gone well before September 25th, but they didn't leave finally till that date. And the ones who had died are supposedly buried in the Dewey family cemetery. So, so this is a very important history that we need to share. And then, like Jason said, point people in the directions of what happened down the road. You know, and there's other things that have nothing to do with wars. You know, that certain people came through here, prominent people.
Yeah, of course. I was just hearing a great story this morning on the radio about the famous canal boats that ran up and down the lake, and of all the vessels that the lake has real history and ties with. We often talk about the battleships, or we talk about the big steamliners, but in fact, actually, it would have been the canal boats, the almost the tractor trailers of the day, really. And when they discover wreckage in the lake, it's usually of the canal boats. Yeah, there's a great history here. People really maybe should have a renewed interest in the amazing background and the story that is us.
Yeah, canal boats were made right there in River Street in Champlain. You know, you know, so it's not like we're not part of that canal that
it's correct.
Tied in with the Great Lakes. This is one of their destinations. Their northern destination was right up here, and those canal boats, we were lucky. We talked to a man named Russell LaFountain, or LaFontaine, depending on who's pronouncing it. And he worked on tugboats and stuff on the canal system right up into his retirement in the 70s. And then we had Jim Allard, or Allor, whose family was involved with the canal boats.
Really?
And so you know, it's a lot of history there. So we've you know, been able to capture a few of those people to share their knowledge, and
which is great.
And I know Celine has a little thing from the Paquette family, because the Paquettes were involved with canal boats of a small, I call it small. It's probably about 3-4 feet big, of a canal boat. What they look like.
Yes, I've seen that.
Yeah. So it's just so yeah, if we can point them in directions and use this as a starting point, that'd be great.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a reminder to everybody to visit our history centers, the one in Champlain and in Rouse's Point. Both museums they're outstanding.
Yeah.
Great displays.
And I think this park really is a great connection between the old and the new. So we're designing this to be the modern park that people can enjoy, but when it comes to the past, we're also connecting it to the past as well, just whether it's right across the street or right here on this land, or where we can send other people. So it's a project that truly is community bound, you know.
Well said.
Yeah, and you never dreamt when you were a youngster being interviewed by Bob Venne that you'd be saying that someday, would you?
No, but I can't think of a more fitting person to pay tribute to in terms of having his name on this park.
Anything
Agreed.
else? Anything?
No, that's
All right.
that says it all. Thank you very much.
Wrestle that microphone away from you here. And
I was trying to keep everybody in it.
I know that. You did a good job too. I couldn't have pointed the camera and pointed the mic at the same time, so I appreciate that. So I'll just close with the Woodman sign here on the side of the building.